On this Tuesday, I am going to lay something out for you that should have your full attention. All three major weather models, the European, the GFS, and the Canadian, are now converging on the development of a powerful storm system by next weekend. This is not a maybe anymore. The question is no longer whether a significant storm forms. The question now is where it tracks, who gets hammered, and just how bad it gets. Because depending on which model you believe, we could be looking at anything from a major nor'easter with blizzard conditions in the northeast to a classic southern slider dumping snow across the Corollas and the deep south all over again. And in between those two scenarios, there is ice, heavy rain, coastal flooding, and gusty winds for millions. I have been telling you for days that I thought the middle of February would produce our next big storm. Well, here it comes. Let me take you through every detail, city by city, region by region, covering all the way through the 20th. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now, let's move on. First, where we stand right now. The Arctic air that has been punishing the eastern United States is still hanging on, but it is losing its grip. Yesterday was brutal across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, with sub-zero temperatures from New York through New England and single digits along the I-95 corridor. Wind chills were dangerously below zero from D.C. to Boston. But today, Monday, we are already seeing the beginning of a warm-up as a southern northerly flow starts to push in. A clipper system is diving through the Midwest today, bringing light snow showers from Michigan through the Finger Lakes into New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Maine by Tuesday. Not a high-impact event, but enough to keep the shovels out. By Tuesday afternoon, that ridge builds in, and the warm-up becomes real. Above-average temperatures will push across much of the lower 48 by Tuesday into Wednesday, from the Corollas all the way through Arkansas and Oklahoma. And some spots will feel 20 to 30 degrees warmer than they did over the weekend. It is going to feel like a completely different world out there. But do not get comfortable. That warmth does not last. Now, here is the main event, and this is where we need to spend our time. A classic Baja low is forming over California and the Four Corners region by midweek. This is a powerful piece of energy in the subtropical jet stream, and when it crosses the Rockies and interacts with cold air pushing down from Canada along the polar jet, that is the textbook recipe for major storm development. The WPC issued their extended forecast discussion on Sunday afternoon, confirming that troughing diving down the west coast will send southern stream energy into the southwest by Friday, bringing an expanding area of precipitation, potentially moderate to locally heavy, across the south-central United States by this weekend. They specifically noted that the system will traverse the southern half of the nation and eventually spread precipitation into the east with, and I quote, uncertain wintry impacts possible on the north side. They also stated that the greatest source of uncertainty continues to be with the west coast troughing and how and when that energy moves eastward. That is the meteorological way of saying this storm is coming, but the details are still up in the air. So let me walk you through what each model is showing. The European model, which has been the most aggressive, forms low pressure over Texas by late in the week, and then cranks it into a full-blown nor'easter by Sunday. We are talking a 998 millibar low riding up the coast with heavy snow, ice across the Appalachian, gusty winds, and potential blizzard conditions somewhere in the northeast. The European model's ensemble suite has been increasing confidence over the past several runs, with snowfall probabilities rising from Appalachia through the western Corollas all the way up into the northeast. The freezing rain probability maps also show a bump in icing potential through the Ohio Valley and into Appalachia. This would be a headline making travel, disrupting power outage, producing storm if the European verifies. The GFS model tells a similar story in the big picture, but differs on the details. It also forms the southern slider with rain from Texas through the Corollas, and shows a classic high-pressure block to the north, pumping cold air down into the mid-Atlantic. Winter weather shows up from about Charlotte northbound. Whether that is ice or snow is too early to say. The GFS then rides this up the coast as a strong nor'easter at 979 millibars, but tracks it further offshore than the European. That offshore track would reduce blizzard potential in the northeast, but would still produce a significant storm with heavy rain, wind, and coastal impacts. The Canadian model splits the difference. It shows some wind-intry weather or rain by Friday in the mid-Atlantic and southeast, then brings the major storm through the weekend on a track somewhere between the European and GFS solutions. All three models agree on a powerful storm. They disagree on the exact track, and therefore who gets the worst of it. Let me break down what this means for every major region and city. Starting with the Northeast, New York City is in the crosshairs on the European model for a potential major snowstorm by next Sunday, possibly reaching blizzard criteria. The GFS keeps the heaviest impacts offshore, but still delivers significant precipitation. Central Park has recorded only 3 in of snow this entire winter, and this storm could change that in a single event. Boston faces the highest blizzard probability if the European solution verifies with heavy snow, strong winds, and poor visibility. New England in general is looking at its most significant storm threat in weeks. Philadelphia sits in the battleground zone between snow and a wintry mix. A southern track means heavy snow. An offshore track means mainly rain. Either way, impacts are likely. Albany and upstate New York could see significant snow regardless of the track. Given the cold air already in place and the ensemble support building in that area, the mid-Atlantic is a critical zone. Washington, D.C. could see its most significant snow event of the season if the track cooperates. February is historically D.C.'s snowiest month, and with 3 to 7 in still in the seasonal forecast, one good storm could deliver. The GFS shows winter weather from about Charlotte northbound, which would put D.C. right in the mix for a significant event. Baltimore, Richmond, and the Shenandoah Valley should all be on alert for a combination of snow and ice, depending on the final track. Even the European ensembles that were cautious yesterday have been trending upward in probabilities for this region. The Southeast and Corollas cannot afford to sleep on this. Charlotte and the western North Carolina mountains are in play on multiple model solutions. The European model showed a Friday the 13th system bringing 2 to 4 inches of snow across northern North Carolina and Virginia, followed by a deeper south system by Sunday, with snowfall potentially reaching into Georgia and South Carolina. The GFS is less aggressive for the southeast, but still shows rain and wintry weather from Charlotte northward. Raleigh sits in the transition zone between rain and winter weather. Atlanta is on the southern fringe, but the European model had snow reaching as far south as the Big Bend of Florida, with one of its solutions, which is extraordinary. Columbia, South Carolina is also in the threat zone if the southern slider materializes. In a winter that has already produced historic events, including 12 in Charlotte and snow as far south as Sarasota, Florida, nothing should be dismissed. The Midwest and Great Lakes get involved regardless of which solution wins. Chicago, Detroit, and Indianapolis will see precipitation from this system. With the nature of it, whether snow, rain, or a mix, depending on how far north the storm tracks, and how much cold air survives the midweek warm-up, Minneapolis and the northern plains are on the warm side early, but watch for cold air to reload by the weekend. The midweek warm-up pushes temperatures into the 50s and 60s from Omaha to Kansas City, with Dallas and Oklahoma City potentially reaching the 60s and 70s by Tuesday and Wednesday. Enjoy it while it lasts. The Ohio Valley and Appalachian region faces a dual threat of snow and ice. Pittsburgh, Charleston, and the mountains of West Virginia and Western Virginia are in the icing corridor on multiple model runs. Ice accumulation from a storm this strong could mean prolonged power outages and tree damage. Exactly the kind of scenario we saw during the January 23rd through 27th storm, when nearly 80 people died and over 1 million lost power across 16 states. Cincinnati, Columbus, and the I-71 corridor could see a wintry mix transitioning to rain as the warm sector pushes through. Out west, the pattern has finally shifted. California is expecting rain along the coast and mountain snow in the Sierra Nevada by Tuesday into Wednesday, with the WPC noting that recent AI model guidance has shown a signal for heavy rainfall across Southern California, indicating a low-end flood risk. The Cascades and Northern Rockies are already stacking up snow with 50 to 80% probabilities for 6 or more inches across the Sawtooths, Bitterroots, and all western Montana and northwest Wyoming ranges. Once this active pattern kicks in out west, it does not stop. Both models show relentless snowfall for the mountainous west through the rest of the period. Snowpack has been running 50 to 70% of normal, so this is desperately needed. The temperature outlook through February 20th tells the final chapter. The warm-up by Tuesday and Wednesday is real, but short-lived. By Thursday and Friday, colder air starts to push back into the east, arriving just in time to set the stage for winter impacts from the weekend storm. After the storm passes, both models end their runs with major Arctic air reloading across the eastern United States. The European model is notably colder than the GFS through the back half of February, suggesting that winter 2026 has no intention of going quietly. The bottom line is this: a powerful storm system is developing for next weekend, and all 3 major models now agree on it. The European model makes it a potential blizzard for the Northeast. The GFS makes it a strong nor'easter tracking offshore. Either way, snow, ice, wind, and rain are coming to a wide swath of the country between February 13th and the 16th. The West is finally getting meaningful moisture. The cold is reloading after a brief midweek warm-up, and the rest of February looks active, cold, and anything but boring. Get your supplies ready, charge your devices, and stay with me. I will be tracking every twist this pattern throws at.